Welcome to HFY Sci-Fi Tales. My name is Muhammad Akib Rao. To watch more entertaining and HFY sci-fi stories, like, comment, and subscribe to my channel, please. Tuesday, October 17, 2489. Low 9:17 a.m. Orion Standard Time. Charon 9 Survival World. Orion Frontier. The alien warlord's laughter rolled across the stadium like thunder. A moment later, 10,000 alien soldiers began laughing with him. Their voices shook the enormous steel platforms surrounding the trial gate. Some soldiers pointed openly, others struck their armored chests in amusement. Several commanders leaned toward one another, whispering jokes while staring at the humans standing alone beneath the colossal entrance to Charon 9's jungle. Captain Ethan Walker did not react. He stood quietly beneath the burning morning sun, dressed in dark green combat trousers, reinforced boots, and a simple gray field shirt. He wore no powered armor, no energy shield, no breathing mask. He carried only a small canvas pack and a black survival knife. The blade was barely 20 centimeters long. Around Ethan stood the greatest warriors of the Orion Coalition. Every alien soldier wore reinforced exoskeleton armor. Plasma rifles rested against their shoulders. Medical drones hovered behind them. Holographic maps glowed above their wrists. They looked ready to invade a planet. The human looked ready to repair a broken tent. High above the trial ground, Warlord Draxxar leaned over the golden railing of the command platform. He belonged to the Dravak species, a race feared across the Orion frontier for its size and military strength. Draxxar stood nearly 3 meters tall. His dark crimson skin was covered with thick biological armor plates. 2 curved horns rose from the sides of his skull, and 4 glowing amber eyes studied Ethan with open contempt. In one hand, Draxxar carried an enormous plasma axe. The weapon was almost as tall as Ethan. "Captain Ethan Walker," the warlord announced. His amplified voice echoed across the entire stadium. "You claim that Earth can teach my soldiers how to survive Charon 9. Ethan looked up at him. "That's why the Coalition invited me." Another wave of laughter moved through the alien ranks. Draxxar raised his axe and pointed toward the small knife hanging from Ethan's belt. "And you intend to enter the deadliest jungle in the Orion frontier carrying that?" Ethan calmly removed the knife from its sheath. The steel blade reflected the sunlight. It had no energy field, no targeting system, no hidden plasma edge. It looked painfully ordinary. Draxxar's 4 eyes widened with amusement. "You will not survive 5 minutes with that toy." The soldiers laughed even louder. Ethan examined the blade for a second. Then he looked directly at Draxxar. "This isn't a weapon." The laughter slowly weakened. Draxxar smiled. "Then what is it?" Ethan slid the knife back into its sheath. "It's permission to survive." For one brief moment, the entire stadium became quiet. Then the jungle gate began to open. Ancient metal locks separated with a deep mechanical groan. Thick armored doors moved apart, revealing a wall of darkness beyond them. Something enormous screamed from inside the jungle. The sound was so powerful that several alien soldiers instinctively raised their rifles. Ethan did not move. He only tightened the strap of his pack. None of the soldiers watching him knew it yet. But before the sun rose again, the aliens who had laughed at the human's tiny knife would be praying that its owner reached them in time. Charon 9 was not officially classified as a normal planet. In the Orion Coalition's scientific database, it was described as a planetary biological hazard. 92% of its surface was covered by jungle. The tallest trees rose more than 300 meters into the sky. Their roots moved beneath the ground, following heat and vibration. Some plants released poisonous spores when they detected sudden movement. Transparent predators lived inside the rivers and could sense a heartbeat through 20 meters of water. Even the rain was dangerous. The clouds of Charon 9 carried microscopic metallic organisms. If those organisms entered an open wound, they began consuming iron from the blood. No species had ever successfully colonized the planet. That was exactly why the Galactic War Council had built its most brutal survival academy there. Every year, elite soldiers from 12 allied species arrived to complete the 72-hour Charon trial. The rules were simple. Enter the jungle. Reach the extraction valley within 3 days. Bring no external support. Survive. Most soldiers failed before the first night. Some never returned at all. Warlord Draxxar had controlled the academy for 11 years. He had completed the trial 6 times and believed that no one understood Charon 9 better than he did. His survival doctrine was built around three principles: superior armor, superior firepower, superior strength. Captain Ethan Walker represented everything Draxxar disliked. The human was only 27 years old. He was not unusually large. He stood slightly above 6 feet, with a lean, athletic frame, short, dark brown hair, gray-blue eyes, and an expression that rarely revealed what he was thinking. But Ethan had spent 8 years in Earth's Special Operations Survival Corps. His complete record was classified. The public sections were already difficult to believe. He had survived 43 days beneath Europa's frozen surface after a transport crash. He had crossed the toxic desert of Kepler 86F without a functioning breathing unit. He had escaped from a prison camp on Velos Prime using a broken spoon, medical tubing, and patience. Draxxar had dismissed every report. According to the Warlord, humans were not strong. They were simply fortunate. That belief began to collapse less than 1 hour after the trial started. At exactly 09:20 a.m., 6 alien squads entered the jungle. Each squad contained 10 elite soldiers. The ground shook beneath their powered armor as they marched through the gate. Surveillance drones rose above them. Holographic scanners swept the trees. Ethan entered last. Before he crossed the gate, Commander Velka approached him. Velka was a silver-skinned Veyran officer with bright violet eyes and a narrow face. Unlike Draxxar, she had not laughed at Ethan. She had read his service record carefully. "Captain Walker," she said quietly, "the nearest emergency shelter is 48 kilometers east. I know. The jungle disrupts most navigation systems after sunset. I know. 12 confirmed apex predators live inside the trial sector." Ethan adjusted the strap of his canvas pack. 13. Velka's violet eyes narrowed. "Our records list 12. Ethan gave her a faint smile. "You forgot humans." Then he stepped through the gate. The doors closed behind him. The alien squads moved quickly. Their commanders believed that speed would reduce their exposure to danger. Heavy mechanical boots crushed plants beneath them. Drones flew ahead, scanning the terrain. Digital maps selected the shortest route toward the extraction valley. Ethan moved differently. He walked slowly. Every few meters, he stopped and listened. Charon 9 was never truly silent. Millions of creatures moved through the canopy. Insects clicked beneath the leaves. Distant predators called to one another. Branches shifted even when there was no wind, but the sounds followed patterns. Small glass moths gathered near clean water. Red-backed crawlers avoided poisonous soil. Canopy hunters changed the pitch of their calls whenever something larger entered their territory. Ethan had arrived on Charon 9 3 weeks before the trial. He had spent every evening studying biological reports, interviewing survivors, examining animal remains, and learning the behavior of the jungle. Draxxar had seen him sitting inside the academy library and assumed the human was afraid to train. Ethan had been training the entire time. At 10:42 a.m., he stopped beside a fallen blue tree. He removed his survival knife and cut a thin strip from the inner bark. The knife itself was simple. Its blade was made from layered titanium carbon steel. The black handle contained a fire striker, cutting wire, and 2 purification tablets. There was no secret alien technology hidden inside it. The blade's greatest advantage could not be manufactured. It was held by someone who knew what to notice. Ethan smelled the bark, touched it briefly to his tongue, and immediately spat it out, acidic. He changed direction. Several kilometers ahead, Squad 3 reached a wide river. Their commander, Lieutenant Korv, ordered a drone to scan the water. The machine reported no poison, no bacteria, and no chemical contamination. The soldiers lowered their rifles and began filling their containers. None of them noticed that the surface of the river was moving against the current. Back at the observation stadium, thousands of spectators watched through live surveillance feeds. Draxxar sat comfortably on the command platform. Commander Velka stood beside him. "Squad 3 should move away from the river," she said. "The scan says the water is safe," Draxxar replied. The human avoided it. The Warlord looked toward Ethan's feed. The human was kneeling beside a patch of moss, collecting moisture with a piece of cloth. Draxxar laughed. "Trained soldiers use scientific equipment. The human drinks from plants." On the main screen, something transparent rose from the river. Lieutenant Korv had enough time to shout once. 6 clear limbs wrapped around 2 soldiers and dragged them beneath the surface. The squad opened fire. Plasma bolts struck the water. Steam exploded into the air. Then dozens of transparent shapes began moving below the surface. "Retreat!" Korv screamed. The soldiers ran. 3 plasma rifles disappeared into the river. One soldier lost part of his leg armor before an emergency drone lifted him away. Squad 3 was eliminated 47 minutes after entering the trial. The stadium became quieter. Draxxar's smile weakened. Velka looked again at Ethan's feed. He knew. He guessed, the warlord replied. But Ethan had not guessed. No glass moths had been flying near the river. That meant something beneath the surface was eating them. By late afternoon, 4 of the 6 alien squads were already in serious trouble. One squad lost its navigation drones when metallic insects attacked the machines. Another entered a field of flowers that released hallucinogenic pollen. A third activated the territorial instincts of a herd of 6-legged armored animals. Every time the aliens encountered danger, they responded with more technology. They fired weapons, activated energy shields, used explosives, and every solution created another problem. The plasma fire attracted predators. Energy shields generated heat. Explosions disturbed the moving roots beneath the soil. Ethan used almost nothing. At 05:12 p.m., he found a ridge made from black volcanic stone. The rocks were warm but not hot. There were no fresh tracks nearby. Wind moved uphill, carrying his scent away from the valley. He chose the location immediately. Using his knife, Ethan cut flexible branches from a low-growing tree. He constructed a narrow shelter beneath an overhanging rock and covered it with broad leaves. Then he dug a drainage channel around it. On the command platform, Draxxar watched with amusement. He is building a nest. Velka glanced toward the western horizon. He is preparing for rain. Our weather system predicts clear skies. Velka studied Ethan's movements. He isn't watching the sky. What is he watching? The insects. Tiny creatures were climbing higher along the trees. 20 minutes later, black clouds appeared above the western mountains. The storm arrived violently. Rain struck the jungle like metal pellets. Winds tore drones from the air. Lightning targeted the tallest powered suits. Alien soldiers were caught in open terrain. Communication systems failed. Medical units shut down. Powered armor became heavy and unreliable. Ethan remained beneath the volcanic ledge. His drainage channel carried the water away. He used the fire striker from his knife handle to create a small flame. Then he warmed several stones and placed them near the entrance of his shelter. He ate dried food from his pack and listened. At 08:43 p.m., something began circling his camp. The observation cameras detected a large heat signature. A shadow mauler stepped from the trees. The creature was nearly 5 meters long. Black scales absorbed the surrounding light. 6 green eyes focused on Ethan's shelter. Its jaws were powerful enough to crush military armor. The stadium erupted with excited voices. Draxxar leaned forward. Now the human learns. Ethan remained seated. The shadow mauler lowered its head and moved closer. Ethan slowly picked up a burning branch. He did not wave it. He did not shout. Instead, he removed a small yellow plant he had collected earlier and sliced open its stem with the survival knife. Thick oil dripped onto the flame. Sharp white smoke filled the space between the shelter and the predator. The shadow mauler recoiled, its 6 eyes closed. It released a deep warning growl and disappeared into the jungle. For several seconds, the stadium was silent. Draxxar looked toward one of the academy biologists. What did the human do? The scientist studied the plant database. The oil creates a scent similar to the defensive secretion of the shadow mauler's natural rival. Velka looked at Draxxar. The human did not fight the creature. No. He convinced it to leave. Wednesday, October 18, 2489. Low 6:10 a.m. Second day of the Charon trial. Only 2 complete alien squads remained. Ethan woke before sunrise. He inspected the wind, drank filtered rainwater, and dismantled his shelter. He left no food behind, no fabric, no obvious footprints. At 07:02 a.m., a distress signal appeared on his wrist beacon. Squad 5 had become trapped inside a root field 12 kilometers south. The rules did not require competitors to help one another. Most soldiers ignored distress calls because helping another squad reduced their own chances of reaching extraction. Ethan immediately changed direction. Draxxar noticed. The human is walking away from the extraction route. Velka checked the map. He is heading toward Squad 5. Then he is a fool. The root field appeared harmless from a distance. Thin black vines covered the ground in tangled patterns, but the plants responded to heat. Once they detected a warm body, they wrapped around it and pulled it beneath the soil. 4 soldiers were trapped. Their powered armor made the situation worse. Every movement generated more heat. The roots tightened around their legs and arms. Squad leader Nero fired a plasma rifle. The vines instantly surrounded the weapon and dragged it underground. "Stop moving!" Ethan shouted from the edge of the field. Nero turned his helmet toward him. "Human, power down your armor. We'll be defenseless. You're already defenseless. Shut it down." Nero hesitated. A vine tightened around his leg. "Do it now." One by one, the soldiers deactivated their suits. The heat signatures weakened. The roots stopped moving. Ethan removed his shirt and covered his arms, chest and face with cold mud to reduce his body temperature. Then he crawled into the field. He used the small knife to cut only the thin feeder vines. He avoided the larger roots completely. Severing one of those would have caused the entire field to attack. The work took almost 40 minutes. One careless movement would have pulled Ethan beneath the ground. At 08:03 a.m., the final soldier crawled free. Nero sat beside the field, breathing heavily. "You risked your trial for us." Ethan wiped the knife clean. "This is a survival test." "Yes, survival isn't always individual." Nero looked at the little blade. "That knife cut through roots our plasma weapons could not destroy." Ethan returned it to its sheath. "My knife didn't panic." The alien commander stared at him. For the first time he understood. The blade was not extraordinary. The person holding it was. By mid-morning, the alien cadets inside the stadium had stopped laughing. They whispered Ethan's name. They replayed his decisions. Officers began asking questions about Earth's survival doctrine. Warlord Draxxar could feel his authority slipping away. His reputation had been built on the belief that strength controlled nature. The human was proving that nature could not be controlled. It could only be understood. At 09:30 a.m., Draxxar summoned his security chief. "Activate Predator Release 7. The officer froze. "Warlord, Predator releases are prohibited during an active trial. This is my academy. Release 7 contains the Crimson Ravager." "I know. It killed an entire research team." Draxxar's 4 eyes narrowed. "Release it near the human." Commander Velka overheard the command. She stepped forward. "You are altering the trial. I am improving it. You are attempting to kill an invited coalition instructor. If your human is truly capable, he will survive." Velka looked directly at him. "And if he does?" Draxxar turned toward Ethan's image. "He will not." At 10:15 a.m., containment doors opened beneath the western mountains. The Crimson Ravager entered the jungle. It stood 12 meters long and was covered with layers of dark bone armor. It could detect body heat, electrical signals, and blood from 50 kilometers away. It had no known natural enemy. A warning appeared on every participant's beacon. "Unregistered apex predator detected." Ethan stopped walking. The creature was not listed in the official trial. Someone had released it deliberately. He looked directly at the nearest surveillance drone. For the first time, the human's expression became cold. "Draxxar," Ethan said quietly, knowing the warlord could hear him. "You just changed the rules." On the command platform, Draxxar smiled. "Yes, human." Ethan slowly drew the survival knife. "Good." The smile vanished from Draxxar's face. The Crimson Ravager moved with impossible speed. Trees snapped beneath its weight. Smaller predators fled before it. Its armored head remained close to the ground as it followed the signal from Ethan's wrist beacon. Ethan recognized the tracking method. He removed the beacon and attached it to a small crawling creature. The animal moved east, Ethan moved west. For 20 minutes, the deception worked. Then the Ravager caught the creature and crushed the beacon beneath one claw. Ethan reached a narrow canyon at 11:02 a.m. He examined the cliffs. Thousands of pale nests hung beneath the rock ledges. Winged razorbacks slept inside them. Ethan checked the wind. Then he began preparing the canyon. Using the knife, he cut several lengths of fibrous vine. He tied them across the ground and attached sharp-smelling plants to the cords. Then he climbed 30 meters above the canyon floor and hid behind a stone ledge. Minutes later, the Ravager arrived. The creature charged into the canyon. Its front legs struck the vines. The cords snapped instantly. They had never been intended to trap the predator. They pulled the plants apart. The sharp scent rose toward the nests. Thousands of razorbacks exploded from the cliffs. They attacked the Ravager's eyes, mouth, and ears. The massive creature roared and slammed against the canyon walls. Ethan waited above it. When the swarm finally dispersed, the Ravager was still alive, but it was confused. Ethan dropped quietly onto its back. The stadium gasped. He drove the small knife between two armor plates near the creature's neck. Not deep enough to kill it, only deep enough to cut the gland it used to detect electrical signals. The Ravager turned wildly. Ethan rolled away and disappeared between the rocks. Draxxar rose from his command chair. He could have killed it. Velka looked at him. He was not trying to kill it. Why not? Because killing a 12-meter predator with a small blade is difficult. Draxxar stared at her, and disabling its ability to hunt is easier. For the first time, Warlord Draxxar looked uncertain. At 12:40 p.m., the wounded Ravager reached Squad 1. Unable to track properly, it attacked everything that moved. The soldiers opened fire. Plasma bolts struck its armor but caused little damage. The creature threw one alien against a tree and trapped 3 others near a cliff. Ethan heard the weapons from nearly 2 kilometers away. He could have continued toward the extraction point. Instead, he ran toward the sound. Squad leader Talvek saw him emerge through the trees. "Stay back," the alien shouted. "Our weapons cannot stop it." Ethan studied the area. A broken tree leaned above the cliff. A pool of rainwater filled a depression in the ground. A damaged rifle cable hung near one injured soldier. The Ravager's right leg dragged slightly. Ethan did not see separate objects. He saw a complete solution. "Fire at the tree," he shouted. Talvek stared at him. "The predator is in front of us." "Exactly. Shoot the tree." The soldiers obeyed. Plasma bolts cut through the trunk. The enormous tree began to fall. Ethan ran directly toward the Ravager. The predator opened its jaws. At the final moment, Ethan slid beneath its armored chest and used the knife to cut a soft tendon behind its injured leg. The Ravager stumbled. The falling tree struck its back and pushed it into the pool. Ethan grabbed the exposed power cable and threw it into the water. "Activate the emergency battery." Talvek understood. He triggered the power cell. Electricity surged through the pool. The Ravager's muscles locked. The giant predator collapsed unconscious. For several seconds, no one spoke. Talvek stared at the creature. Then he looked at Ethan's knife. "You defeated it with that blade." Ethan shook his head. "I defeated it with a tree, water, gravity, electricity, and its own bad decisions." Talvek pointed toward the knife. "And the blade?" Ethan returned it to its sheath. The knife introduced them. By the third morning, every surviving alien squad had gathered around Ethan. The trial was no longer a competition. The aliens were following the human. He taught them how to cross the root fields. He explained which insects indicated clean water. He showed them how to read tracks, wind, broken branches, and predator calls. He ordered them to shut down unnecessary equipment and conserve energy. Every lesson contradicted Draxxar's teachings, but every lesson kept soldiers alive. On Thursday, October 19th, at 06:45 a.m., Warlord Draxxar entered the jungle personally. He carried his plasma axe and wore his heaviest ceremonial armor. Officially, he claimed he was inspecting the trial. In reality, he was trying to recover his pride. He landed near the extraction valley with 12 guards. Then he opened a public communication channel. "Captain Walker." Ethan heard Draxxar's voice through an alien radio. "You have turned my trial into a classroom. That is what instructors do. You have embarrassed my soldiers. I saved your soldiers. You used tricks." Ethan continued walking. Survival is the art of making an enemy call intelligence a trick. Draxxar tightened his grip on the axe. "Face me in the extraction valley." "This is not a combat trial. It is now." Ethan stopped. Commander Nero looked at him. "Captain, Draxxar is almost 3 times your weight." "I noticed. His armor can survive plasma fire." "I noticed that too. Your knife cannot penetrate it." Ethan looked toward the dark clouds gathering above the valley. "I don't need it to." Thursday, October 19th, 2489, low 8:58 a.m. Extraction Valley, Charon 9. Draxxar stood in the center of the valley. Surveillance drones floated overhead, broadcasting the confrontation across the planet. Every military base, academy, city, and command ship displayed the same image: a massive armored warlord carrying a plasma axe, and a human holding a tiny survival knife. Draxxar raised his weapon. You said this blade gives you permission to survive. Ethan walked forward. It does. Then survive me. Draxxar attacked. The plasma axe struck the place where Ethan had been standing. The impact shattered the ground. Ethan moved sideways. Draxxar attacked again, and again. Each strike carried enough force to kill a normal soldier instantly. Ethan did not block. He did not attempt to match the alien's strength. He watched. Draxxar's right knee moved slower than the left. His armor sank deeper into the wet ground with every step. The plasma axe generated enormous heat. Beneath the valley, the heat-sensitive roots were beginning to move. Ethan waited. Draxxar became angrier. You are afraid to fight. No, Ethan replied. I'm waiting for the planet to join us. The ground erupted. Black roots wrapped around Draxxar's heated axe. The warlord pulled backward. The vines tightened. He released the weapon and charged Ethan with his bare hands. Ethan rolled beneath one enormous arm. The knife flashed once. He cut a small pressure tube behind Draxxar's right knee. Hydraulic fluid sprayed from the armor. The leg locked. Draxxar fell to one knee. He roared and grabbed Ethan by the shirt. The warlord lifted him into the air. Across Charon 9, billions watched. Draxxar smiled. Your tricks are finished. Ethan looked toward the alien's chest armor. No. He drove the knife into a narrow slot beneath the chest plate. The blade did not penetrate the armor. It pressed a manual emergency release. Every powered suit was required to contain one. Draxxar's chest plate opened. The armor shut down. Without mechanical support, the enormous warlord collapsed beneath its own weight. Ethan landed beside him. Draxxar tried to stand. He could not. The locked leg and dead armor held him against the ground. Ethan pulled the knife free. You cheated, Draxxar gasped. Ethan looked directly at the cameras. No. You brought a machine into a survival fight. Lightning flashed. Metallic rain began falling into the valley. Ethan looked at the damaged suit. Your armor's hydraulic system is open. The rain will reach the internal power core in approximately 4 minutes. Draxxar's expression changed. If that happens, Ethan continued, the suit will burn you alive. The human could have walked away. No one would have blamed him. Draxxar had released the Ravager. He had changed the trial. He had tried to kill Ethan in front of the galaxy. Instead, Ethan knelt beside him. Using the small survival knife, he cut through the damaged straps. He removed twisted armor plates and opened a path toward the emergency core. The surviving alien soldiers rushed forward. Together, they dragged Draxxar free only seconds before the ruined armor erupted in sparks. The warlord lay in the mud, alive, saved by the human he had tried to murder. Ethan stood beneath the metallic rain. Water ran down his face. He cleaned the blade and returned it to its sheath. Across the entire planet, nobody spoke. Not the soldiers in the valley. Not the officers inside the academy. Not the civilians watching from distant cities. Charon 9 had fallen completely silent. The 72-hour trial ended at exactly 09:17 a.m. Every surviving soldier crossed the extraction line. Not one of them walked ahead of Ethan. That afternoon, the Galactic War Council held an emergency session. Commander Velka presented the complete evidence. Captain Ethan Walker had survived with minimal equipment. He had rescued soldiers from 3 squads. He had disabled the planet's most dangerous predator without killing it. He had defeated Warlord Draxxar without matching his strength. And after winning, he had saved the Warlord's life. At 06:30 p.m., every screen inside the Academy activated. A representative of the Galactic War Council appeared. Effective immediately, the Charon survival doctrine is suspended. Draxxar lowered his head. The belief that superior strength and technology guarantee survival has been proven incomplete and dangerously misleading. Footage of Ethan's actions appeared behind the representative. The river, the storm shelter, the root field, the Crimson Ravager, the extraction valley. Earth's Special Forces survival instructors will no longer be classified as ordinary military personnel. A quiet murmur moved through the academy. They will be recognized as strategic survival specialists with planetary threat capability. The display changed. Ethan's photograph appeared. Beneath it were the words, Captain Ethan Walker, Classification, Planetary Survival Asset. The council representative continued. Beginning with the next training cycle, every coalition military academy will adopt Earth's core survival principles: observation before action, adaptation before aggression, cooperation before competition, and intelligence before strength. When the transmission ended, Draxxar approached Ethan. The stadium became quiet once again. The Warlord carried his plasma axe. He placed the enormous weapon on the ground between them. For 11 years, Draxxar said, I taught soldiers that the largest weapon belonged to the strongest warrior. Ethan waited. I was wrong. Draxxar slowly lowered himself to one knee. Thousands of alien soldiers followed him. The Warlord bowed his head. The strongest weapon was the mind carrying the smallest blade. Ethan looked across the kneeling army. He did not celebrate. He did not mock them. He simply extended his hand toward Draxxar. Stand up. The Warlord looked at him. Why? Because survival instructors don't need students on their knees. Ethan pulled him to his feet. They need them standing. Monday, March 4th, 2493, 11 a.m. Galactic Military Museum, Orion Capital. 4 years after the Karen trial, a new exhibit opened inside the Galactic Military Museum. It contained no plasma cannon, no powered armor, no enormous alien weapon. Inside a transparent case rested a small black survival knife. Its blade was scratched. Its handle was worn. Beside it was a simple plaque, Earth Survival Knife, carried by Captain Ethan Walker during the Karen 9 trial. Below it were the words now taught in every coalition military academy. Technology can fail, strength can fade, but a trained mind can turn rain, stone, trees, fear, and mercy into tools of survival. Alien cadets visited the exhibit every day. Many expected to discover secret technology inside the knife. They searched for an energy core, a hidden computer, a microscopic weapon system. They found nothing. It was only steel. One young Dravak cadet stared through the glass. Is this really the knife that silenced an entire planet? He asked. His instructor shook his head. No. The cadet looked confused. The knife did nothing. The instructor pointed toward a photograph of Ethan Walker standing beneath the rain. The human holding it silenced the planet. Far away, on another dangerous frontier world, Captain Ethan Walker stood before a new class. 20 alien soldiers surrounded him, carrying advanced weapons and expensive equipment. Ethan placed a small survival knife on the ground. Your equipment will fail, he told them. The soldiers exchanged uncertain looks. Your communication systems will disappear. Your maps will become useless. Your weapons will lose power. He looked toward the jungle waiting beyond the gate. And when everything you trust is gone, you will discover what kind of soldier you truly are. One cadet raised a hand. Captain, what is our first lesson? Ethan picked up the knife. Your first lesson is simple. He pointed toward the dark forest. Before you enter a world, he paused as the jungle gate slowly opened. Learn how it intends to kill you. The soldiers followed him into the darkness, and this time, nobody laughed at the human's tiny knife. Like, comment, and subscribe to my channel for more HFY sci-fi stories.